I married a man I met online, and now I don't even know his real name." The bathroom light buzzed above her. She sat on the edge of the bathtub in her white wedding dress, lace torn at the hip, makeup smeared under her eyes like dark rivers down porcelain skin. Her hands trembled as she stared at the burner phone she'd just found in his coat pocket. Rain slammed against the hotel window like fists on a locked door. Somewhere in the suite, soft jazz played from the Bluetooth speaker, a wedding playlist she had made herself. Frank Sinatra, Norah Jones, soft and sweet. It all sounded like a lie now. Her name was Rachel Miller, and tonight she was no longer a bride. She was a stranger in her own life. Rachel was 34, career-focused, and tired of waking up alone. She had dated men before. Some were decent, a few were awful, and most were just temporary. When her best friend Melanie convinced her to try a dating app, Bridgeheart, she rolled her eyes, but downloaded it anyway. That's where she met Daniel Wolf. His profile wasn't like the others. No shirtless gym selfies. No cheesy one-liners. His photo showed him in a gray sweater on a balcony with a view of Seattle in the background. He had dark eyes, a rough stubble, and something in his smile that felt real. Looking for depth in a shallow world. That's what his bio said. Their first messages were thoughtful, honest. He asked about her childhood, her dreams, not just her body or weekend plans. They moved quickly to nightly calls, FaceTimes, then in-person meetings. Their first date was in Boulder. They met at a little cafe tucked into the mountain foothills. Daniel wore a navy button-down shirt and jeans and brought her a book instead of flowers, an old poetry collection she'd mentioned liking. "I travel a lot," he said, sipping black coffee. "I do finance consulting. Mostly private clients. Keeps me on planes." Rachel nodded. He sounded smart, clean, professional. "What about your family?" she asked. Daniel's smile faded just a bit. "Gone," he said. "Lost them in a wreck 5 years ago. That's when I changed everything." It was the first time she felt a strange ache in her chest around him. Loss. Shared pain. Her dad had died the same year. She felt connected to that shadow inside him. From that day forward, Daniel made her feel chosen. Not chased. Not tricked. Wanted. By month 2, Rachel was spending weekends with him in rental cabins. Daniel never invited her to his apartment. He said he traveled too much to keep one. Hotels and Airbnbs are easier. She didn't mind. He always came to her, always paid for everything, and treated her like something fragile and rare. Her friends were cautious. "Why haven't we met him yet?" Melanie asked over wine one night. "He's shy," Rachel said. "Private. But he's amazing." Private? Or hiding? Rachel had ignored that question. Because love wasn't supposed to feel like suspicion. And besides, Daniel made her feel seen. Every insecurity she had, he touched gently, turning it into something beautiful. It came on a Sunday afternoon picnic in Golden, Colorado. The grass was green, the sky endless. Daniel reached into the basket and pulled out a small box. No speech, no grand plan, just a quiet, "Marry me. Let's stop pretending the rest of the world matters." Rachel's heart burst open. She said yes. They married 4 months later in a small garden near Colorado Springs. Just 20 guests, Rachel's family, a few friends, and Daniel's, well, no one. He said he had no one left. No cousins, no siblings, just you now. It sounded romantic, like she was everything. He cried during his vows, kissed her like a man who meant it, held her close that night in the suite of a mountainside hotel as they made love and toasted with champagne. And then his phone buzzed. He didn't let her see it. Said it was work. He walked to the balcony and whispered something into the phone. Rachel couldn't hear much. Just a few words. "Not tonight. I told you I need time." Her stomach flipped. Back in the hotel bathroom, Rachel pressed the power button on the burner phone. It lit up. No passcode. Dozens of texts popped up. "Angela, you're not answering again. Are you with her?" "Angela, don't forget Mark. She's just part of the plan." Rachel's lungs collapsed. "Mark? She scrolled faster. Photos. A little girl. A woman. Family. This wasn't a side fling. This was another life. The door behind her creaked. Daniel's voice. "Ratch? You okay in there?" She looked into the mirror. Her face was pale. Her hands clutched the phone like a weapon. She swallowed hard and unlocked the door. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from and hit like and subscribe for more stories that dig deep into love, betrayal, and the terrifying truth behind the people we trust. Because in Rachel's world, nothing is what it seems. Rachel stood in the doorway of the bathroom, the burner phone still warm in her hand. Her wedding dress now clung to her like a lie she couldn't peel off fast enough. Daniel, no, Mark, stood on the other side, his silhouette framed by the glow of the bedside lamp. He tilted his head. "You've been in there a while. Everything okay?" Rachel forced a smile. Her lips barely moved. "I just needed a minute." She was lying. She hated herself for it. But she needed to see where this would go. Needed more answers before she shattered the world she had just committed her life to. Daniel, Mark moved closer, his eyes scanning hers with the gentle concern he'd mastered so well. "Do you want me to order some late dinner? You haven't eaten all day." "No," she said, stepping past him. "I'm just tired." She slipped the burner phone beneath the towel on the dresser. And just like that, she stepped into her honeymoon night with a man who wasn't who he said he was. Rachel woke early. Daniel was still asleep beside her, one hand resting loosely on her waist. His chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm, like nothing was wrong. Like they were just a happy, exhausted couple after their wedding night. She stared at the ceiling. It felt like something was crawling beneath her skin. Quietly, she slipped out of bed, wrapped herself in a robe, and grabbed the burner phone. She sat by the window and opened the photos again. The girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, was smiling with front teeth missing. Brown curls. Dimples. She looked like him. Then came photos of them all together. The same woman appeared again and again, Angela. In one, she kissed Daniel's cheek. In another, he was lifting the little girl into the air, both of them laughing. It was a real life. A full one. Rachel's stomach twisted into knots. She scrolled through the messages. "Angela, don't you dare ghost me again, Mark. You're not cutting and running on your own daughter. Angela. 6 months ago, you said you needed time. Now you've married someone else. What the hell are you doing?" The screen began to shake. No, her hands were shaking. She turned the phone off and tossed it into her purse. She couldn't confront him yet. Not without a plan. Not until she was somewhere safe. 3 days later, Rachel and Daniel returned from the hotel. Friends sent her flowers. Her sister called and cried over the phone. "I'm so happy for you," she said. Rachel couldn't say it back. Daniel stayed true to his traveling consultant story. Within a week, he was gone again, New York this time. Said it was a wealthy client dealing with overseas accounts. Rachel told him she'd be staying home to settle bills, send thank you cards, rest from all the stress. In truth, she couldn't sleep. She started with a reverse lookup on the burner phone number. It came back unlisted. Then she searched Mark Wolf instead of Daniel. At first, nothing. Then something. A blurry LinkedIn profile. The face was unmistakably his, same jaw, same eyes, but listed under a different name, Mark A. Dalton. The job was vague, independent client strategist. Financial modeling. It didn't feel fake. It felt practiced. Rachel dug deeper, searching social media. There wasn't much. But she found Angela Pierce Dalton on Facebook. Her page was private, but her profile picture said enough, a family photo. The same little girl from the phone. The same man. Her husband. No. Not was. Still is. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. When Daniel, Mark, came home that Friday, he brought her Thai food and a new bracelet. "You looked stressed the last time I saw you," he said. "Thought I'd help take the edge off." Rachel stared at the silver charm bracelet. A little heart. A little airplane. A little lock and key. It felt like a joke now. She nodded. "Thank you. That's sweet." He smiled, pleased with himself. "Next week, I'm flying out to DC. Should be back by Sunday." She chewed slowly. Anything I can help with? I mean, I used to do some finance work. Daniel blinked. You never mentioned that. I guess we skipped a few things, she said flatly. He tilted his head. Everything okay? Rachel smiled and looked down at her plate. Just tired. Like always. Rachel couldn't sit still anymore. The next morning, she followed him to the airport. She parked 2 rows behind where he left the car and watched him from a distance. He boarded a flight to DC. She checked the boards. But she also checked something else. Angela Dalton's Facebook page. 1 hour after his flight landed, a new post appeared. Look who's home. Daddy-daughter day? There he was. Daniel. Or Mark. Or whatever name he was wearing today. The 3 of them stood in front of a bookstore, all smiles. Rachel's hands went cold. He wasn't flying for work. He was flying home. That night, Rachel didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling and listened to the silence in their apartment. She opened a bottle of wine and poured herself 2 glasses. One for her, one for him. When he walked in the next morning, suitcase in hand, she was sitting at the kitchen table with the burner phone sitting beside the glass. Daniel froze in the doorway. Rachel looked up slowly. Her voice was steady. So, Mark, how was your weekend with Angela and your daughter? He dropped the suitcase. Silence crashed between them like thunder. Rachel, his voice was thin. Hello. She stood. Tell me who the hell you really are. Rachel's mind raced as she stared at Mark. He stood frozen in the doorway, the weight of her words hanging between them like a loaded gun. His suitcase dropped to the floor with a dull thud, but neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. For a long moment, there was only silence, deep, suffocating silence. The kind of silence that seemed to echo everything unspoken, all the things Rachel had already known but couldn't quite put into words. Finally, Mark exhaled a slow, shaky breath, his chest rising and falling in a way that told Rachel how hard it was for him to keep the lie together. Rachel. I didn't want you to find out this way. Rachel didn't respond. She didn't need to. She simply crossed her arms and stared at him, waiting for him to continue. The longer he took, the more the room seemed to shrink. Okay, I'll tell you everything, he said, his voice tight with restraint. But you need to hear me out. Her eyes never left his. I'm listening. Mark hesitated before walking past her into the living room. His eyes darted nervously toward the kitchen like he was looking for an escape. But Rachel wasn't going to let him off the hook so easily. I've been living 2 lives, he said, his words barely audible. The man you married, Daniel Wolf, he's not who I am. Rachel felt her heart lurch in her chest, but she stayed still. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and she couldn't stop herself from wanting to hear the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I'm Mark Dalton, he continued, sitting down on the edge of the couch. His shoulders were hunched as though the weight of his secret was too much to bear. I'm married to Angela. And I have a daughter, Emma. But I needed something else. I needed you. Rachel blinked. So you, what? You needed me to do what exactly? Be your escape. Mark nodded, his gaze downcast. Yes. At first, it was just for something real. Angela, she doesn't get me the way you do. And I thought I could have both lives. I thought I could keep you and her separate. She felt a surge of anger rush through her chest, but she forced it back. She wasn't going to let him manipulate her again. She needed to hear the rest of the story. You thought you could have both? She asked, her voice rising. You thought I wouldn't care that I was just a secret? That my love meant nothing compared to what you had at home? No, Rachel, Mark said quickly. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Rachel snapped, her heart thudding in her chest. Tell me, Mark, because I can't stand being kept in the dark anymore. He stood up, pacing the room, his hand running through his hair. I didn't want to hurt you, he muttered, as though trying to convince himself as much as her. But the truth is, I never meant for this to go as far as it did. I thought I could balance everything. But then it got harder. And you got too important to me. Rachel's breath caught. Important? You thought you could have me too? After everything I gave you? Her voice trembled, but she was past caring. She was done being patient with his lies. You got too comfortable with me. You got too used to me, and now that the truth's coming out, you're trying to pretend like you didn't do anything wrong. Mark didn't answer right away. His eyes were wide now, filled with regret, genuine regret, but it was too late. It didn't matter how sorry he was. It didn't matter how much he regretted his actions. He had already destroyed everything. Why? Rachel demanded. Why didn't you just tell me from the beginning? Why didn't you trust me enough to be honest? Mark's shoulders sagged as he sat back down. I thought you'd leave me. I thought you'd think I was a monster if I told you. But when I met you, Rachel, you made me feel like a man again. Not just a father or a husband. A real man. Rachel's pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't a confession of love. This was a confession of guilt. A confession that he never saw her the way she thought he did. She had never been enough. She had only ever been a placeholder. Tell me about Angela, Rachel said, her voice cold. Mark looked up, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of guilt and shame. Angela, she's been my partner for 12 years. We've been through everything together. The ups, the downs, the loss of her parents. She's my wife. The mother of my daughter. And you've been lying to her too? Rachel asked, her stomach churning. Not lying, Mark said quickly. Just keeping things from her. She doesn't know about you. She doesn't know what I've been doing. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. How could he say that with such ease? How could he pretend that he wasn't doing something cruel? I don't know what to say, he muttered, running a hand through his hair again. I thought it would be better if no one knew. Rachel wanted to scream, to throw everything in the room at him. But instead, she closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. She couldn't do this. She couldn't stay in this toxic web of lies anymore. Rachel, please, Mark said, his voice pleading now. I love you. You have to know that. I never wanted to hurt you. Rachel stood up. Love me? You don't even know what love is, Mark. You used me. You manipulated me. And you did it to her too. Tears welled in her eyes, but she fought them back. She couldn't let him see her break. Not now. Not after everything he'd put her through. She turned away, grabbing her purse and heading toward the door. Where are you going? Mark called after her. I'm leaving, Rachel said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. I'm done. I need to think. I need space. Mark stood up, his face filled with panic. Rachel, please? I'll make it right. I swear. Just don't leave me. She didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The days following Rachel's confrontation with Mark felt like a blur. She didn't know what to do, where to go, or how to even begin processing the mess that had become her life. Everything she had believed in, everything she had thought she knew had shattered. The perfect, charming man she had married, Mark, or Daniel Wolfe, or whatever his name really was nothing but a stranger. A liar. For the first time in months, Rachel sat in silence in her apartment. It had been 3 days since she had walked out of their shared home. She hadn't spoken to him since. He had texted her, called her, even sent flowers. But she couldn't bring herself to respond. There was nothing he could say to fix this. Nothing at all. Rachel had spent hours sorting through her thoughts, piecing together fragments of conversations and moments she had once seen as loving, but now they seemed like nothing more than manipulation. She had trusted him with her heart, with her life. How could he betray her like this? But despite the pain, despite the anger, there was still a question gnawing at her. Why? Why had Mark kept her in the dark for so long? Why had he allowed her to fall deeper and deeper into a relationship that had always been built on lies? She couldn't move forward until she had answers. So she did something she never thought she would do. She reached out to Angela. She hadn't expected much, maybe a curt response, maybe anger, maybe disbelief, but what she hadn't expected was for Angela to answer the phone so quickly. Hello? Angela's voice was cautious, wary, but Rachel could tell she was already on edge. Had Mark told her anything? Did she know? It's Rachel, she said softly, her words trembling despite her attempts to sound calm. I need to talk. There was a long pause, a beat of silence that stretched longer than Rachel would have liked. About what? Angela finally asked, her voice strained. I think you already know what this is about, Rachel said. I just need to hear it from you. Did you know about me? Did Mark tell you? Angela's breath caught on the other end of the line. I didn't know, she said finally, her voice breaking. I didn't know about you, Rachel. I swear. Rachel's heart ached at the sincerity in Angela's voice, but she couldn't stop herself from feeling betrayed once again. How much longer had Mark been hiding this from her? How much longer had he been lying to both of them? I found out 3 days ago, Angela continued, her voice quieter now, the words coming out in a rush. I didn't know he was seeing someone else. I didn't know he was having an affair. He told me he was working late, that he was in meetings. I was so busy with Emma, with everything. I never thought to question him. But now I don't know what to think. Rachel closed her eyes, pressing her fingers against her forehead. I don't know what to think either. I don't know if I can ever trust him again. And you shouldn't either. Angela's voice was thick with emotion. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to be a part of this. He lied to me too, Rachel. He told me I was the only one, that I was all he needed. But you were never supposed to be part of this. He kept us separate. He made me believe I was his world. A bitter laugh escaped Rachel's lips. Sounds familiar. That's exactly what he told me. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I wish I could have seen it. I wish I had known what he was doing. Rachel wasn't sure why she had reached out to Angela. Maybe it was for some sense of closure. Maybe it was because, in some twisted way, Angela deserved to know the truth just as much as she did. But the words were out now, and Rachel felt like there was nothing left to say. She hung up without another word. That night, Rachel found herself standing in front of Mark's house. She hadn't meant to come back. She had told herself over and over that she was done, that she was walking away for good. But something inside her still needed that final piece of closure. She needed to see it for herself. She needed to know if there was any ounce of sincerity left in him. Mark wasn't home, but she wasn't there to confront him. Not directly, anyway. No, she had another plan. She walked around to the side of the house where Mark's office window was just barely visible through the overgrown bushes. She wasn't proud of what she was about to do, but she couldn't shake the need to find the truth. She picked up a small stone and tossed it lightly against the window. After a few moments, the curtain moved slightly. The office light flickered on, and Mark appeared in the doorway. Rachel, he said, his voice laced with confusion and frustration. He opened the door, and she stepped in. What are you doing here? He asked, his expression hardening as he crossed his arms over his chest. He was trying to play it cool, trying to act like nothing was wrong. But she saw the panic in his eyes. I need to see something, she said, her voice icy. I need to see if you're the man I thought you were, or if I've been living in a lie for the last 6 months. Mark didn't answer. He just stood there, his eyes darting between Rachel and the door as if he were trying to find the right words. But Rachel wasn't waiting. She wasn't giving him the chance. She walked past him into the office and opened the desk drawer. Inside, she found a folder half hidden beneath some papers. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it out and opened it. Pictures. Pictures of herself. Pictures of Angela. And then pictures of them together. Mark and Angela. Smiling. Laughing. Sharing moments that Rachel had never been a part of. She flipped through the pages, feeling sick to her stomach as the truth sank deeper. He had kept everything. He had documented everything. This wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. This was his second life, a life he had shared with someone else while pretending to love Rachel. You, Rachel started, her voice shaking. You had all of this. You had everything. And you still lied. Mark stepped forward, his hands outstretched. Rachel, I didn't mean for it to get this far. I swear to you, No, Rachel cut him off, her voice cold. You didn't mean for me to find out. But I did. And now it's over. Mark opened his mouth to speak, but Rachel didn't give him the chance. She dropped the folder on the desk, turned, and walked out of the room. She didn't need him anymore. She didn't need his lies. She didn't need a man who had 2 faces, one for her and one for his wife. As she walked down the driveway, the last of her love for him faded into the night. She was free. Free to heal, free to rebuild, free to live her life without the shadow of his deceit hanging over her. Rachel knew now that she was done. She had finally seen the truth. And the truth was that she didn't need him. What would you do if you discovered your partner had been living a secret life? Would you forgive, or would you walk away like Rachel did? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that explore the truth behind relationships, the lies we tell, and the consequences we face. You won't want to miss what's coming next.